Juwan Howard was part of very possibly the most famous quintet in college basketball history. In fact, I'll just go there. It wasn't the most decorated, but most famous, yes. Sometimes infamous, yeah, I'll give you that. It was the Fab Five. You know it well. And Juwan was a big part of it. Michigan's Fab Five. And now Juwan, as you well know, is the head coach at Michigan. Though it's starting to be debatable how much longer he'll be that head coach. Juwan went on to be a good NBA player, not a great one, but definitely a good one. He did make an all-star team. And in his second season, this was at Washington, he averaged 22 and 8. That's pretty good. I've been following this league very closely for a long time, and Juwan I would hear about was seen as a good dude, played hard, could be a fierce competitor, never quite got the anger management issues that we've seen here of late in college basketball, but fierce competitor for sure. So what happened a second time to Juwan the other day? To me, bottom line, he can't quite let go of being a very good NBA player. Can't let it go. It's too much embedded in his psyche. And I think the main reason he can't is that all around him, especially in college basketball, more and more and more, we see coaches who didn't actually play the game at any high level. Maybe marginal college basketball, maybe Division II or III college basketball background, but no NBA background. They come from nowhere, like a lot of now NFL head coaches just come from nowhere. Many of them just barely played college football or played at a lower level. And all of a sudden, that guy's a head coach. I told you Mike McDaniel, the new Dolphins head coach. Wait, he went to Yale and he was a walk-on receiver, but we can find no stats. I'm not sure he ever got in a game. Really? That guy's the head coach of the, yep, he is. They're everywhere. Guys who didn't play at any level to speak of are becoming head coaches or managers in baseball, and then head coach in NFL, head coach in NBA. It's everywhere. It's analytics driven. And yet I told you a week ago in episode 6 that my quote unquote cross to bear in this business for many, many years has been so many athletes challenging me on the air. If you didn't play, you don't know because you can't know. And so many times I've said, I beg to differ. I do know. I learned football and basketball in very different ways than those ex-stars learned it, but I learned it nonetheless with the help of head coaches in both those sports who taught me everything I know. A lot of players taught me a lot of what I know. I know enough to go toe-to-toe with any ex-NFL star, see Shannon Sharp, or NBA star, see any of the number of commentators, ex-stars that we have on Undisputed. And yet we go back to case in point for Juwan. He's at Wisconsin. He's getting his butt kicked by the Badgers. They're down 15 late. And the Wisconsin coach, Gard, calls a timeout with 15 seconds left. He's got his subs in. He said after the game, and I tend to believe this, his subs were trapped in the backcourt. They were going to have a timeline violation. And he just said, I called timeout just so they could get the ball across half court. I don't think he was trying to show up Michigan or run it up or whatever. He did have his subs in. He didn't have his starters in. But here's Juwan at 6'9", looking down at Gard. And I'm sure deep down, Juwan is thinking, wait a second. This guy never even played college basketball. At least I don't think he did. He went to Wisconsin-Platteville, and I only know Wisconsin-Platteville because I went there a number of times for the Chicago Bears training camp that they have held many years at Platteville. And Yet Greg Gard went to Platteville, but I find no indication, no evidence that he played basketball or got into basketball games for even Platteville. Started out, Greg Gard did as a junior high coach, then a high school coach. Then he hooked on with Bo Ryan. He was with him for 23 years as an understudy, and then finally replaced him, as you know, in 2015. So he sort of came from nowhere with no real basketball playing background. I can't even find if he played in high school. I assume he did, small town, Wisconsin. But you just know Juwan is looking down at this little guy, and he's thinking, do you know who I am? How dare you do that to me? Show me up. And my Michigan team, I'm Juwan Howard. I played in the NBA. I made an all-star team. How dare you? That's, I believe, the deepest emotion that Juwan was feeling at that point. You could argue, we could even go deeper into other areas, but I won't do that because I don't know enough about that. But I do know about this. Greg Gard didn't even play college basketball that I can find. And Juwan is looking at him like, who are you? And then all of a sudden, the fracas ensues, and it's pushing and it's shoving. And Juwan's got, obviously, anger management issues because we've seen it once before against Mark Turgeon. But all of a sudden, Wisconsin does have one assistant who did play fairly high level, that Joe Crabenhoff, 6'7" tall. I guess you could say he's the enforcer of the assistants on that staff. So he tries to jump in the middle of it and break it up as the players got involved. And Joe Crabenhoff at 6'7" did start for Wisconsin. He averaged 6 points and 6 rebounds, tried to play in what was then the D League, played a little bit professionally in Korea and then Spain. So had some basketball background, 6'7". And as you know, Juwan reaches over the top and mostly just slapped him. I don't know, but he made contact with his face, and you just can't. And I remind you, there was an incident a year ago. Mark Turgeon, head coach at Maryland, he got into it with Juwan. Not sure what the background was. Mark Turgeon is 5'10" tall. He was a backup point guard for Larry Brown at Kansas for 4 years. Not bad. Got in some games, had a few starts here and there. Known as a thinker, sort of Turgeon the surgeon, if you will, but not a consistent starter. Averaged 3 points and 3 assists in 4 years at Kansas. Played on some very good teams, but didn't even try to play pro basketball at any level. So here we go again, 6'9" versus 5'10". How dare you? Who are you to challenge me? And they got into it, and Turgeon was quoted after the game saying that Juwan was screaming, "I'm going to effing kill you." Well, obviously now you've gone completely over the edge during a college basketball game. It's certainly not the look that college basketball wants to project, let alone the NBA. And here we go again. It's Juwan can't give up who he was. And who he was does help in recruiting in college basketball. He was a member of the Fab Five. He was an NBA All-Star. That's some cachet in some living rooms with some kids and their parents. I give you that. But on the basketball court, I give you nothing. It's now a completely level playing field for Juwan, even against little guys who barely played or didn't play college basketball. Level. You got to get a grip. You got to get a hold. And you got to give up what you used to be, which is a very good pro basketball player, Juwan. I'm okay that they just suspended him for 5 games. I'm barely okay with that. But he really has 2 strikes against him because that day at Maryland, he had to be restrained and pulled all the way back from going after Turgeon. Terrible look, wrong message. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that deep down, Juwan's decent. I just have a feeling his heart is in the right place, but he's got issues. And I'm just hoping that the 3rd time will be the charm as opposed to it being the 3rd strike, because one more, obviously, and he has to be gone. And once you get gone for that, you just might get gone for good from coaching basketball at any level. Another question from you. Can you rank your top 10 players that were named to the 75th anniversary team? Yeah, I definitely can do that. In order. I'm sorry, this is from Devon in Portland, Oregon. Devon in Portland, Oregon, and I thank you for this question. Devon, I can do that. Number 1, obviously, Michael Jordan. Number 2, Magic Johnson. Number 3, Shaquille O'Neal. Number 4, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 5, Tim Duncan. Number 6, Bill Russell. Number 7, Kobe Bean Bryant. Number 8, Larry Bird. Number 9, LeBron James. And number 10, Wilt Chamberlain. I'm sorry, I'll say it one more time. It is laughable to me that anybody could even try to make the case, and that includes my partner Shannon Sharp, even make the case that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. And if you give me any of my next 7 players, I promise you I will beat LeBron and his team. If you give me Magic, Shaq, Kareem, my man Tim Duncan, who should have another ring. Thank you, Ray Allen. Or if you give me Bill Russell, the great Bill Russell, just on intangibles, on killer will, Bill Russell, or enough said, Kobe Bryant, I will beat LeBron James. I give him 9, but no higher. This brings me to today's final reflection. I will leave you with this. This is my rather poignant perspective on my man, Michael Jordan, the man I saw, as you did, at halftime of the All-Star game the other night, as he was announced last, which made him, in my mind and everybody else's, first on the all-time